basics of fish keeping and what you need to know before you go into the pet store and say, ooh, I want that one. So you've decided to start keeping fish. Now, normally you would think, okay, the first thing I need is a tank. Well, you'd be right, but if we're going to do this the right way, the most important thing to do first is to pick the best fish for you. So I'm going to try and give you guys a short list of fish. Now this is kind of going to be, if you're going into a box store like Petco or PetSmart, some of the most common things you can get there that are easy for beginners and can withstand some of that initial, oh no, I messed up kind of mistakes that sometimes first keepers make, or even people that have been keeping in the hobby for a while accidentally make mistakes and forget to do something. So starting out, option 1 is going to be a fish that you can keep without a heater, providing you keep your house in the mid-60s year-round, especially during the winter. This fish is going to be the danio, specifically the zebra danio, either the long fin or the short fin variety. Keep in waters about 64 to 76-ish Fahrenheit. Now I say the zebra danio because that's one of the most common things you go into PetSmart. They have them all the time. So it's a fish that doesn't require a heater. So if you got a tank from your aunt or your grandmother and doesn't come with a heater, this will be a fish that you can keep without that. They are a relatively peaceful fish. They do like to be in a schooling, so I would say get minimum of 5 and you should be fine. Now later on when we talk tank sizes in another episode, the 5 number will be fine for either size tank that I'll recommend. Personally, I keep 2 kinds of danios. I keep your run-of-the-mill zebra danio, and then I also keep the danio Aquatic, which is like an orange fin danio, so they've got nice orange around the edges of their fins and then some orange spots circled throughout. Again, most danios can go in a nice wide range of like 60 to 80 degrees and be fine. That's basically going to vary on what your tank mates are, on whether or not they'll be fine in your tank. But for the most part, they'll be fine with mostly everything you put them with, as long as they're within a certain range and your other parameters are fine. Next fish that I'm going to recommend that's a super easy fish, nice schooling fish, that gives you a little pop of color if you're just going to do this kind of a tank, would be the Harlequin rasbora. Now this fish is going to want about 72 to 77 degrees, give or take a degree or 2. They get about 2 inches. They're a nice temperament. And again, these will fit perfectly with the tank sizes we'll recommend later on. But this fish is another super easy, super hardy fish. I've got a school of these guys. They made it through a cycling tank with fish in, and no problems came out of that. They're living peacefully in my community tank right now. It's just a nice, easy beginner fish that'll give you some more color compared to the danio, which is more of a gray scale kind of looking fish. But this is a nice orange looking fish, sometimes nice reds, with like a pork chop in the middle of their body. So super cool looking fish, nice schooling fish. You'll get nice behavior out of them. And it's one, again, that's nice and easy. You could technically keep these without a heater, but again, that would depend on you keeping your house in the low 70s. Because if you're keeping the ambient temperature of your house at like 70, 72, the tank water will be around that anyway. So you could probably get away with keeping these without a heater as well. But I would recommend maybe getting a heater just to keep the water a little warm for these guys, but you could maybe get away without a heater for them. Next fish, again, is going to be one that you could potentially keep without a heater, but it all again depends, hinges on how hot you keep your house. Personally, all my tanks need heaters because the room my fish tanks are in is constantly below 60 degrees. Anyway, the next fish that I would recommend to a first-time fish keeper would be a molly. Now, go with a normal molly. Don't go with the balloon mollies, because the balloon mollies, the way they're bred, their organs are all squished and everything. So the balloon effect, while some might think is cool, can actually hurt the fish, and they have a not so good life. But your racing mollies, like your lyre tails, your Dalmatian mollies, your creamsicles, your orange ones, 72 to 78 for heat. So again, keep your house in the low 70s, you'd probably be fine. A nice fish, it is also a live bearer, so you might want a slightly larger tank, but again, we'll get into that later. That is a nice fish. You can get different mix and match your colors. It'll look nice in a tank, and it's a relatively easy one to keep. I put them as a live bearer on this list because personally, I think they're a little hardier than guppies that we can buy right now. I think most of the pet store guppies have been so genetically tired that they don't last as long, and personal experience getting fish from Petco and PetSmart, the guppies don't tend to last, whereas the mollies do. I have a pair of Mollies that's been in my community tank for a year now and doing fine. So I'm going to put Mollies as the other fish on this list. And then our last fish, personal favorite of mine, will require a heater. It is my personal recommendation. It's probably one of the best beginner fish. It is the betta fish. It is a beautiful fish. They come in all shapes, all colors. You can get fail tails, you can get crown tails, half moons, placots, pretty much any color and fin combination you can think of, they have. They're at every pet store. They're online. You can pretty much get them anywhere where fish and fish supplies are sold. Now, the reason that I would recommend these as the best fish for beginner fish keepers is, in my personal opinion, they're one of the hardiest fish I've ever kept. They can survive a lot of the beginner fish keeper mistakes that people will make the first time they're keeping a fish, or the first time they've been keeping fish in a long time. What I mean by that is these things can last with people forgetting water changes. If you don't change your tank water, these things can survive through it. But I've had tanks that refused to cycle where the ammonia was constantly high. We're talking like dark green on the API Master Test Kit. Something else we'll talk about later. And these fish survived it no problem. And yes, I was water changing those tanks pretty much daily. So that is one of the reasons that I would suggest these as one of the best, if not the best, beginner fish out there on the market. Now with these, you are going to need a heater. These are going to want to be kept at a minimum around 78, 80 is what they prefer. The other good thing about this is if you are limited on tank space, they can be kept in slightly smaller aquariums. Not going to get into that though right now because I do have a video that I did on betta carabides, so I will link that if you want to check that out for more details. To recap, my list for the best beginner fish keeping fish would be the danios, most likely zebra danios, longfin or shortfin, the Harlequin or rasboras, your mollies, and your bettas. Now, of course, there are plenty of other fish out there. I'm just going off of my personal experience, and if someone said, hey, I want to get into fish keeping, I have a 10-gallon tank, what should I put in it? My first response is going to be get yourself a betta, and then get yourself some kind of schooling fish that doesn't get too big. But we're going to talk about group tanks, community tanks, species tanks, and tank size and all that stuff later on. This is just step one, pick the fish. Everyone probably thinks you get the tank first, then you do the cycle, then you do this, but step one should always be pick the fish first so that you can get the appropriate tank size, the appropriate substrate, the appropriate filter size, the appropriate heater size, and you can do all your research on that fish before you even start into keeping the fish. So this will be part one, just all about which fish I would recommend for first time fish keepers and picking your fish. Part two will be on tank sizes and possibly cycling. I have to see how long that video will be. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to hit the subscribe button if you don't subscribe already, and hit the like button, leave a comment. It really does help. I respond to every single comment. I give every comment a like and a heart and reply. Even if it's just a thank you for watching, I do reply to all the comments. And I hope you guys enjoyed this first video, and there'll be more to come. If you have any suggestions for other things I could talk about, let me know, and if I know enough about it, I'll make a video on it. And these might come out every week, they might come out every other week. It all depends on how much time I have to record them. And if you do decide to get a betta after watching this video as your first fish, I would recommend keepfishkeeping.com. John and Lisa from KD Tropicals selection of fish on there, and they're all kept wonderfully. They care for them great. Other than that, I will catch you guys in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed.